Hi everybody, this video is about the Anthro logo assignment, which we introduced in our welcome video, but because the first step of that assignment is coming up, we wanted to give you a little bit more of a discussion, walk you through the handout in more detail so you feel ready to begin on that project. So let's go ahead and look at the handout and talk about the project overall, and then much more specifically what you're going to be doing at the end of this week. So here we are on our home page. There's a couple ways to get to that handout. I'm just going to go to the content area because I think that's probably where you're spending the most time. So as you know, table of contents down the left-hand side. Where we are in the course right now is at the very beginning of week 3. So this week you will be continuing to learn about cultural anthropology. And at the very end of this week, in fact, not until the Monday after the end of this week, you will have the first part of the Anthro logo project due, and that is submitting a cultural anthropology image. So one of the ways to get to the handout is to just click here. The other way that I'll just show you quickly is you can also just go through the assignments tab. Okay, either way leads you to the same place. So let's go on down here and click on this. And then you'll see that it links directly to a handout with all the instructions for the whole project. Okay, so here we are. This handout is linked to all the assignment folders for all the steps of the project. So basically, anywhere you look, you're going to see these same instructions. And again, as we mentioned at the very beginning of the course, this is a project that has a few steps. So you're going to sort of build something over time. And what we're going to really focus on now is making sure you know how to do the first step. Okay? All right. So this is a project where you will do some elements of the project on your own individually, and then ultimately you will come together with the members of your group to complete the project. And what that project is creating a logo that represents the discipline of anthropology, right? Something you've been learning about so far and that you'll continue to learn about throughout the semester. So I guess the first question would be, which we try to answer here on the handout, is, well, what is a logo? A logo is a symbolic representation of an idea, okay? It's different than other kinds of representations in that it uses symbolism, which means that a logo has components that carry dense information, all right? Actually, the idea of a symbol is something that is important in anthropology because it's so central to really what culture is, okay? Humans use symbols all the time. In fact, language is one of the best examples of a symbol in action. Every time you say a word, you are using a symbol. It's a sound that stands for something. It's a sound that carries meaning bigger than itself, all right? That's one way to think about what a symbol is, okay? So that's the idea that you're going to use to create your logo, okay? The logo will also be primarily visual. We're going to give you a little bit of options for using some amount of text, but primarily what you're trying to do is to come up with a combination of images that you think in the whole will represent anthropology well, as you've learned about it in this course, okay? All right. So again, let's get back to the process. You're going to start by compiling images on your own, each of you individually, and then you're going to look at them as a group and come up with the final product, if you will, as a group, okay? So the very first step, let me skim down here, is at the end of each of the first 3 units on the subfields of anthropology, that is weeks 2 and 3 on cultural anthropology, weeks 4 and 5 on archaeology, and weeks 6 and 7 on biological anthropology. At the end of each of those, you're going to submit as an individual one image that you think represents that subfield as you've just learned about it. The images really were very open about what those could be. You could draw something and just take a photo of it. You could create something digitally if that's sort of something in your toolbox. Not necessary, but you can. You could take a photograph of something and submit that photograph. You could find an image on the internet, okay? So it's really kind of up to you, but we want you to identify one image that you think is representative of each of those subfields. Again, the immediate one you're going to be working on is cultural anthropology, right? and you're going to submit that to the appropriate assignment folder, okay? So this very first part of the assignment is coming up. It's due February 9th by 10 p.m. You'll submit one image to the Cultural Anthropology Image assignment folder, all right? Let me walk you through what you're going to do after that. Once we've gotten through the first half of the semester talking about the 3 subfields, and you've therefore completed the first 3 parts of this assignment, you're going to have sort of a cache of images about each of those 3 subfields, about cultural anthropology, about archaeology, about biological anthropology. During weeks 8 and 10 of the semester, you are going to work with those images within your group. All right, and I'll show you in a minute what the groups area looks like if you haven't already looked at it. So we're going to ask you, once we've gotten through this sort of first half of the semester, you're going to take the images that you submitted, compile them in your group's locker, and then you'll work together to try to come up with a design that you think overall will represent anthropology. So in other words, you're going to sort of fit together different images from those that you've come up with and see what you think as a group is the best overall design to, again, be something that people will look at and they'll know something about what anthropology is. Like I said, we did give you the option of using some words. So if you look, again, up here in terms of the how to create your anthropology logo section, we say primarily visual elements, but you can include up to a maximum of 10 words, okay? The goal of this is really for you both individually and within your group to reflect on what you've learned and to come up with something original. So in other words, what we don't want to see is that you sort of Google Anthro logos and just turn in something that you found online, right? I'm sure you could find something that comes up when you put in those search terms, but that's not really very useful. What we're looking for is that you come up with something that demonstrates that you know what anthropology is based on your learning in this course, and that you've thought sort of creatively and productively about how best to visually represent what you've learned about anthropology. We want to be clear that we're not looking for, you to be a great artist or to be a master of graphic design or any of that, okay? That's not what you're going to be graded on. You're going to be graded on your ability to demonstrate that you've learned what anthropology is through this course and that you've taken some time and you've been thoughtful about how to represent what you've learned, okay? So again, we say this again down here in the final format section. You do not need to be an artist or a technological wizard to do well in this assignment, okay? All right, so back to the steps. So the first one coming up, each of you individually submit a cultural anthropology image to the appropriate folder in D2L. It's due by February 9th at 10 p.m. You will then subsequently submit an archaeology image on February 23, a biological anthropology image on March 9. Okay? At that point, you will have sort of accrued all the imagery you're going to use. And as I said, weeks 8 and 10 will be time for your group to work on designing your overall logo. The final 2 parts of this assignment that you will turn in, again, this will be a group-created final project, are the final logo, and we're going to ask you to write up your process, okay? So the final logo and a 2-page written description of your logo and why you think it represents anthropology will be due right near the end of the semester on March 30th by 10 p.m., okay? We will, of course, be checking in with you on the process before then. So right now, with this video, we wanted to give you, again, a more detailed sort of run-through of what the entire project is, and more specifically, draw your attention to the fact that this first step, logo step 1, you're going to start working on that and submit something by February 9th. The final thing I'll touch on in this video, even though you're not going to need this for a while, as I explained earlier, is to just give you a quick look at the groups area of D2L. You can go check that out on your own. Like I said, for now you're going to be working individually, but you will want to know how that looks and how to use it when we get to weeks 8 and 10, when you'll be using it more. So let's just take a quick peek at that. Again, we'll be checking in with you more on this when we get a little bit closer to it. So let's go back to content, and then if you look on those tabs across the top, you'll see that one is called groups. This looks different on my end than it will on yours, but the important thing is that you know now, hopefully, which group you're in. You can find the members of your group right here. This is the link to those two sort of group-based assignments. And the main thing I want to point out, because they're going to be two really important tools in creating your final logo and write-up, is you have a discussion area and you have a locker, okay? So for example, if I go to this, this is group 1, right? It's randomly chosen. Each of the groups has their own sort of discussion area so that just you all can see. We can see it as well, the instructors can. But it's for just the members of the group. So this is a place where you can start your discussion, right? About, I think this is a great cultural anthropology image. How about if we use this archaeology image? How about if we do whatever it may be in terms of combining elements to create your final logo? So you can discuss here. And then the other element that I wanted to show you is the locker. So this is a place where you can dump files to look at together, right? So indeed, as you'll see, again, on the assignment handout, and we'll remind you of this at the time, when we get past the midterm point, you will be transferring the images you've collected into the locker so you can all look at them as a group, okay? Again, I think this groups section will be very useful as you work on your projects. We, completely know that this is an asynchronous course. We do not expect you to find some time that you can all meet. I know everybody's got busy schedules. That may not be possible. So use your discussions area, use your locker area. You do also have this this little nice function, which is this email will take you to, will create a group email to all the members of your group. Okay, so you can quickly email the other folks in your group if you want to say, hey, I just stuck something in the locker, please take a look. Okay. All right. So, again, this is just to give you a glimpse of what that groups area looks like. For now, focus on creating the first step, which is finding your cultural anthropology image and getting that into the assignment folder, again, at the end or just after the week 3 material on February 9th. We are super excited. We think this is going to be a really fun assignment. We want to see what you come up with. So be creative. We absolutely want you to think about anthropology. We want there to be substance there. And we also want to see you do something fun and creative. So try to bring those two things together as you work on it. And we will look forward to seeing step 1, your cultural anthropology images, by the end of the day on February 9th. Okay, we'll stop there for now. Take care. We'll talk soon.